What is going on, Clippers fans? Welcome to Season 3, Episode 53 of Clips and Dip. I am Chuck Mockler, joined by Adam Oslin. William Updike, we don't know where he is. We hope he's doing okay. He will be back with us for the full tripod the next time. We are coming at you live on YouTube or on audio. If you'd like to watch us, you can find us at youtube.com/@ClippersPodcast. If you want to listen to us, we're everywhere they have podcasts, so that is very fun. I am not wearing a Clippers hat today. I am wearing a University of Montana Grizzlies hat because the men's basketball team just won the Big Sky Conference and they're going to the dance. And the women's basketball team got beat on a last-second shot despite being a 6th seed. So I want to show love to my alma mater for doing great in the Big Sky Conference tournament. Adam, how are you? Did Biola win their conference championship for basketball? What's going down?
In the NAIA or whatever it is. I don't think so, but congratulations to your Grizz, and congratulations to the Memphis Grizzlies for making my plan and putting it into action.
Oh, no.
Being the number 2 seed in the Western Conference. Stay there, boys. That's exactly where we want you.
We are going to talk the Clippers splitting their back-to-back the wrong way, as I would like to call it. And then the Clippers play the Hawks tomorrow and the Hornets on Sunday. At least one of these games should be very winnable. Adam, would you agree or disagree that the Clippers split the back-to-back the wrong way?
Yeah. I mean, I thought they would go 2-0, and I definitely didn't think if they lost a game, it would be the one with Kawhi against the Pelicans. But, I did think that Pelicans game made sense to play Kawhi against them because I thought they were the more dangerous team.
Of course.
A lot of people were saying the opposite. Why aren't we playing them against Miami? Zion is that good that if you're in a close game like that, you're at his mercy sometimes. If Zion is playing, you're in a close game, and they're having a hot shooting night like that, their hottest of the season, you are at their mercy. It never should have come to that, being down by 21, then down by 17 in the fourth after they had cut into the lead. It was really inconsistent from the Clippers from both sides of the basketball. They couldn't put together solid quarters, solid possessions out there. I was disappointed in the play overall.
Yeah, it was not ideal. The bench was brutal from 3. They went 3 of 15. Nico went 2 of 8, which it's not on him to make a bunch of threes, but if you get 8, you hope more than 2 go in. And we almost had the 20-point comeback, right? Like at one point it was almost there, and then it just dissipated away.
Yeah, they took a lead. I think it was tied at 87 in the third, and then you had 3 straight three-pointers made by the Pelicans after that. 2 from Trey Murphy and 1 from C.J. McCollum. And I think the Clippers were down 8 heading into the fourth. And then to start the fourth quarter, things weren't looking good either. And I really didn't like the fact that to start the fourth quarter, I want to say it was Dunn, Amir, who else was out there? Kawhi, Ivica Zubac. The fifth guy escapes me.
Was it?
But we talked about post game. The first 3 shots weren't taken by Kawhi or Ivica Zubac.
No.
And they got down by 15, call a timeout. They come back out. Amir Coffey hits a 3-pointer. That was a big shot, but I didn't understand the lack of aggressiveness from Kawhi, who was having a good shooting game. But to start the fourth quarter, where you would think they'd be running the offense through him and he'd be leading them, that didn't happen. So I hope we see more consistency throughout 4 quarters from Kawhi moving forward.
That's a good call on the Kawhi consistency. I also hope we see more consistency, which I think we saw in the Heat game, of going to Zoo, right? Brian Siemens said it in the third quarter of the Pels game. The Clippers are playing through Ivica Zubac, and it's yielding good results. Like we saw that.
Oh, Brian said it? Let me tell you, we've been saying.
Yeah, right. But then they get a great win versus the Heat because why not? Like that's like I loved how Zoo played against Adebayo. Like
the Heat aren't that good.
We needed it though. The Clippers right now, I think
it was a good win. I'm just saying.
Sure.
They are worse than the Pelicans with Zion and CJ playing. The Heat are
Yeah.
worse.
That is fair. This back-to-back, I put this in the notes, but it's kind of like a snapshot of the season a little bit, where the Clippers can't get it done against a conference opponent, against the team that the wins, quote unquote, matter a little bit more. And then on the second night of a back-to-back against a rested Eastern Conference team, we see this, like, Bogey had his, by far best game as a Clipper, which hopefully that keeps going. But like, this back-to-back to me was kind of a bit of a snapshot of the Clippers season, I guess. Not bad or good either way, but this is kind of what we've been dealing with. They almost lost to the Kings. it took yeah.
The Kings were playing good, but yeah, that was a bad game that they pulled out thanks to Kawhi heroics. But they're 5-7 since the All-Star break now. And I think a lot of this is, I don't know if it's a snapshot of the season. It's a snapshot of how you look without Norman Powell.
Oof.
Like,
okay. I like that.
How many more games do they win post All-Star break if they have Norm? Like, honestly, probably 4 more games. I think they win one of the Lakers game. I think they win the Bucks game that they were up 13 in. I think they win the Phoenix game. I think they win the Pels game. I think
it was I could 3 I'm on board for sure. I don't know. 4 just feels like too much. I don't know. But the point is the exact same. This is what the team, this is a snapshot of the team without their leading scorer.
Yeah. And I know it's strange for outsiders to be like, what? What's the big deal? Norman Powell, 6-man type. No. Leading scorer this season. An efficient leading scorer for this team. One of the most efficient players in the league, this time on high volume. So it's kind of a problem when you don't have him. Kawhi has still been up and down. James Harden has gone through shooting struggles, although he has been pretty good overall since the 2 games against the Lakers. He's had an upswing. Ivica Zubac, they're inconsistent with how they use him when they should give him the ball more. It's an easier way to win, play through Zoo. Norman Powell cures a lot of what ails them. Really does.
Yeah.
I think they'd easily have a winning record out of the All-Star break if they had Norm, but they don't. So figure it out. And they're not going to have him the next 2 games likely either. I don't think he's going to be back for the Charlotte game. They might give us an update.
Yeah, because he's supposed to be reevaluated basically in the next couple days is when the reevaluate. I'm assuming when they get back from this trip. But yeah, he won't. And that's a reevaluation. That's not he will be practicing.
It's unlikely it's a reevaluation and he's clear for takeoff.
Right. Yeah. If you've been a fan of the Clippers, do not put your hopes up on the reevaluation leading to him being completely off the injury.
I hope he's back for the Cavs game. That is my guess. Of
when is that?
That would be optimal. I would say.
What's the date for that one? Oh, that's like
that's next Tuesday.
Yeah. Okay.
It's going to be real tough to beat a team that's lost 10 games this season without Norman Powell.
I would agree with that. There were some good takeaways from the back-to-back. Obviously, Kawhi looked great offensively versus the Pels. Did Bogdan find his shot? Because him shooting his usual averages makes a big difference for how this Clippers team can perform out there. That was a great something to build off of game for Bogdan. We've yet to see 3 games in a row of like good Bogdan play in terms, you know what I mean? Like there hasn't been 3 games in a row of it. I hope that was the start because he looked incredibly confident. James Harden posted a hilarious tweet of them as Sidney Dean and I'm blanking on the other character name from White Men Can't Jump. But this is and obviously he's not going to put up the efficiency that he did the other night. But if he can get close to his normal, usual efficiency, that changes a lot for the Clippers, especially when it comes to play-in basketball.
I think there's a lot of over-analysis going on with Bogey. Like, you're asking for 3 games in a row. We need 3 games in a row. It's like, we can't get 3 games in a row from Kawhi yet.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
We can't get that from James most of the time. Like, it's normal to have up and down play.
And he's at what? He's at 37% shooting from 3, right? As a Clipper?
He's a little bit under that, I think. He's about league average now
Oh,
after
okay.
last night. But it's like he just had 23 against Detroit.
Yeah.
I don't know why people are like, oh, Bogey finally showed up. It's like he just had 23 against them. He's had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 games of being in double figures already. Like, I think he's been decent, especially when you consider the on-ball juice that he's been showing and the pick and roll that he's been using.
Putting it on the floor has been nice.
I think he's been pretty solid. He's had about 5 really impactful games.
Yeah. I think it's
Um,
magnified too just because people are out, right? So he's thrust into a role that he wouldn't usually have full rotation.
yeah. Hopefully he's big against his former team in Atlanta. But last night is why I was like, you can't give up on Bogey. They don't have options to. And why would you? Like,
Well, yeah, I mean, you're not
everything's
gonna.
on small sample size with his shooting numbers so far, really, this season, uh, especially with Atlanta. And he's getting boards, he's getting assists.
He's
Like,
setting things up. That's because that's the biggest miss with Ben Simmons, right? Is not having someone there to be the other person who can set something up. So him coming in and doing that is very valuable.
yeah, it's like he's not just a spot up shooter, and if he's not hitting shots, then he's unplayable or something like that. He is
Right.
offering other stuff out there. So even without last night's game, I think he's been solid, but obviously he's not meeting his potential yet. If he has a string of 15-point games with some efficiency out there,
Whew.
I
We are
he's
we are cooking with gas if that is happening.
well, it's like his gravity. Look at the first 3 he takes and makes last night early in the first quarter. They're all over him.
Yeah.
Well, they're treating him like he's Bogey Bogdan. He's Bogdan Bogdanovich. He's Bogey. Uh, I'm not overly concerned, but we'll see how much of what happened last night can be packaged into, just a smaller performance, but similar levels of efficiency out there where it doesn't have to be 30 points, but 15 and shoot around 40% from 3.
Yeah, him off the bench with that percentage from 3 and being able to put it on the floor is very much what the Clippers needed and what they traded for. Another guy who's been pretty good with the connector stuff lately, Nico Batum. Nico Batum has put in some classic, just good, solid Nico performances. You know what I mean? Like they're not going to jump off the stat page, but he's the adult on the floor a lot of the times, right? He knows what to do. He's been showing, and I think it makes sense given his age, kind of the ramp up as the season's gone on into feeling more like the last iteration of Nico on this Clippers team, which has been really cool to see, and come at a time where halfway through March they played a shit ton of games and there's only a lot more coming. So any relief we can get with that is huge.
Yeah, Nico's playing almost 11 more minutes per game in March.
Damn.
This looks intentional. I don't even think it's just about the injuries.
Yeah.
I think they want to get Nico going and in a rhythm before the playoffs because he can be a secret weapon for them. Like I've been saying, I think he can, as he has been as of late. I've been saying all season, I think in a 7-game series, there's a real good chance Nico starts at power forward and they put Kawhi at the 3, depending on the matchup. I've said it all season, and guess what? He's been starting at power forward a lot lately. He's averaging a block per game during this time too, while doing it 26
crazy,
minutes.
that rule. Do you think, because this has been some discourse too, when Norm comes back, what do you think the starting lineup looks like for, let's call it the play-in, right? Because that's that's where we're at right now. Do you think the starting lineup goes Harden, Norm, Kawhi, Nico, Zoo, or do you think they go back to I don't know if I can even say usual because it's not like we've had a terrible amount of consistency with it. The one that a lot of people, myself included, prefer of Norm, Harden, Kawhi, Derek Jones Jr., then Zoo.
Honestly, I think it's going to be matchup dependent for Coach Lou. Like, I don't think it's going to be a set roster. If they're playing Minnesota and Julius Randle is out there with Rudy Gobert in the play-in, I could see Batum starting at power forward. I could see the lineup that you just said. If they're facing a team that's a little bit smaller, switchier on the perimeter, I could see DJ or Chris Dunn out there instead. But yeah, I think it's totally going to be about the opposition and who they're playing.
Yeah, because you're not putting, and I'm happy that this talk has kind of stopped. You're not putting Norm on the bench in a playoffs. That's not happening. And I don't fully believe that Ty Lue would put out a 3-guard lineup, adding Chris Dunn and then having Kawhi play the 4 and Zoo play the 5. I don't think that would happen.
What's the lineup then? What you said?
The lineup would be Harden, Norm, Chris Dunn, Kawhi, Zoo.
If they played Memphis in a first round series, I could see it against Ja. I think he'd sit Chris Dunn. I think he started the first 2 games against Memphis. He definitely started that first one when they got that big win.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that obviously there was no Kawhi in that game. I think it was him and DJ. But
there's so many different who was outs we have to keep track of with these lineups.
Yeah. No, I could see it. I heard I think it was before the Pelicans game. Carlo gave out the different iterations and how many they've had this season, and I heard it was like 39 or something. They've had 39 different starting lineups.
I mean,
could be worse, guys. There are a couple other teams that have been through injuries way worse than the Clippers this season, actually.
That's crazy. I mean, yeah, look at the Pels who we just played.
So sad.
And I think I like how the team looks with Derek Jones Jr. out there instead of Chris Dunn. Fully healthy, obviously fully healthy type thing. But the way that Ty Lue has had to coach and deal with rotations, he's probably more comfortable making, like you said, decisions based on who we're playing as an opponent. Because we haven't had a very extended run of like, here's everyone's healthy. Let's switch people out when everyone's healthy and see how it's going. You know what I mean? Like, he's kind of been having to do the throw something at the wall, hope it sticks for, unsurprisingly, the majority of the season, with the leading scorer being out.
I think he considers it just like an early adjustment. It's not. It's so. It's something so innate to Clippers basketball at this point.
Yes.
That expect the unexpected, get comfortable being uncomfortable. I don't think it would throw guys off or, because it's been in flux anyways. So what does it matter now? And I think Coach Lue prides himself about being that great adjuster out there and playing who he needs and it's matchup dependent all the time. So I think if you're playing Memphis, Chris Dunn is starting because Ja Morant. If you're playing Denver, you're probably going a little bit bigger. You might go Batum because you could switch him on to Nikola Jokic at times.
Have Zoo do the safety, yeah.
So, yeah, I think it's totally just dependent on who they're playing.
Terrence Mann is like, I've told you all to be ready. Terrence Mann is like,
stay ready.
Stay ready. Any other takeaways from the back-to-back? Were you encouraged after the back-to-back, or are you still neutral? Kind of just, we got a lot. We're obviously in the thick of a lot of games right now for the Clippers.
So they're, I believe, 11-5 now with a rest disadvantage this season, which is like the second or third best record with a rest disadvantage.
That's crazy.
They've been really good with rallying after bad losses.
Yeah.
I could say they've been pretty good in that area. And this was another one of them against Miami where they had to have it. And it just seems like Harden's always able to dig a little bit more into that gas tank that seems to be like an everlasting gobstopper or something of energy. He's always got a little bit more.
He's got flubber.
But it seems like with Harden, when he knows he's going to be the focal point more because Kawhi is going to be out in one of these games, just like the game against Detroit where he drops 50 on the second night of a back-to-back where he's playing over about 40 minutes.
Yeah.
It seems that energizes him. He knows he's the main guy. He's the show. It all runs through him. And I'm not saying that as criticism.
So you want Kawhi benched?
I think it's just natural because that's what he's most comfortable with.
Mhm.
We talk about all the moving parts with the Clippers all the time, but James Harden had a good decade of his career where he was the guy all the
The
time.
one part.
Everything went through him. Like the all-time, usage guy to really start off this modern shift to having some of those guys out there that just are your system, just
Yeah.
like the Clippers have with Harden. So I remember what he said at media day, something about he's excited because I'm gonna have the ball in my hands all the time. Like he said that, like kind of like I'm gonna have the ball in my hand. And that's who he is as a player. That's what he's most comfortable. That's where he finds his rhythm. And so I'm not surprised when they bounce back this way with those type of lineups anymore, because I think to some degree it brings out the best in Harden. But ultimately, to peak as a team, you have to merge the best of Harden with the best of Kawhi Leonard. And how do you make all that work? So there's still a lot to work through right now and figure out when you're probably only getting. So there's 3 more back to back. So you're getting 13 games at best with Kawhi Leonard if he doesn't play in both of the back to backs the rest of the season. How can you mesh those two as well as you can with the time remaining here? That's, I think, critical right now.
I like what you said because kind of about showing up to games after they've lost a bad game. They've shown up to, for the most part, every game as they should have, right? Last year there were games where a lot of games where we were like, why are we down 12 again to this lottery team? Why are we down so early to this team that, again, on paper we should be better than? The Kings game was a difficult game with a playoff atmosphere that they managed to win, and they never really rolled over. They almost, they came back in the first 20-point comeback against the Pels. They were leading for a brief period of time, then obviously it all fell apart. But that mentality of showing up and still believing that they're in every game for the most part has just been really on a better display this season. And I think a lot of that goes back to James Harden, like you said. Like he's like, okay, my night, like time to get Zoo 20. Like, let's see what we can do with that. Like, so the resilience, maybe it's not resilience because you're still losing the first game, but the bounce back ability is big and will help this team in a playoff series. So, yeah. And Kawhi looked great offensively versus the Pels, so that's a fun thing too.
I would say, tell me if you agree with this, but this has been the best year since the 21-22 season where they didn't have Kawhi, where they only had PG for 31 games, when it comes to the Clippers showing up and having effort.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
It's not
sure.
every single game, but
No.
it's never that for even the team that goes on to win the championship that year. You can look at some games from Boston last year. I don't know. The Clippers blew them out in Boston. There are games where you don't have it, but for the most part, effort has not been an issue with this Clippers team, and their defensive rating is indicative of that. A lot of that is effort.
Yeah, I would 100% agree with that, and it's also like the lows aren't as low as they used to be, right? Like the lows where we're just like, oh, so no one has it or gives a shit tonight is kind of where we're at. Those don't happen. I think a big reason that doesn't happen is because Chris Dunn is one of the ultimate lead by example guys when it comes to defense.
Yeah.
I think that's huge. I think Harden, obviously, we talked about his leadership in the offseason, taking the young guys to Rico Hines and making everyone feel together and part of a team, and then also going out there on the second night of a back-to-back, playing 38 minutes with probably the same percentage usage rate for him. Like, and Zeus consists, like, they have a good, like coalescence of guys who lead by example for the most part, who have been available in Zoo and Dunn specific and Harden specifically.
And maybe it's a bunch of those guys. With James, it's I get to go back to playing my brand of basketball on those nights where they're undermanned and they just have to try to outwork you. With Zoo, it's addition by subtraction. With Norman, it's addition by subtraction. Guys that are getting more substantial roles that want to show what they can do out there. There's just a level of motivation that wasn't always there maybe when they had the most talented teams at times fully healthy, where they would have those stinkers and those dud nights where they just didn't seem to show up. And Coach Lou sometimes would sub them out later,
The
and
five
we get an all bench
sub.
unit just because
Yeah.
he wanted to see some guys bring some energy.
Yeah, man, those were some dark times. I don't think there's been a single hockey line change this year. Has Kawhi done a 5-sub situation at any point this year? Because that happened a couple times last year.
I don't remember. Yeah, maybe not. I can't remember.
Thank God. I'll tell you what, that's the mark of a bad season. Look how if you could find how many times a coach subbed out 5 guys at once, you're either having a really bad season or a really good season. There's no in between there, I don't think. Coming up, we are going to be talking the Hawks game, bit of a reunion, and then a little bit of the Hornets game on Sunday. If you're listening to us on audio, thank you so much. We really do appreciate it. If you'd like to watch us on YouTube and see our faces, you can find us at youtube.com/@ClippersPodcast. Don't ask me where I got this hat. I will not tell you. You cannot buy it, but you can look at it at youtube.com/@ClippersPodcast. We're talking the upcoming games against the Hawks and Hornets coming up in 3, 2, 1.
Welcome back in Clips and Dip. I'm Adam Moslem. We got Chuck Mockler here. It's episode 53 of season 2. No Will Updike, but all of us will be together again very soon here. That sounded morbid.
Yeah, that was like, is one of us going to war?
Clippers going to war against the Hawks tomorrow, baby. Huge game. Bogey versus the Hawks, Terrence Mann versus the Clippers. One of the things I would say about, and it relates to the first game against the Hawks this season, about last night's game, though, for the Clippers in that win against Miami, some of that, we talk about effort, we talk about bouncing back. Some of that is just hot shooting. The same way we explain away some losses for the Clippers because of hot shooting, you have to explain away some wins, I think, the same way sometimes, to be fair.
I agree 100%.
I mean, they shot their highest field goal percentage of the season, just a tick under 60%. Were they just a tick under? Yeah, I think they were 48% from 3. Like, good shooting night cures a lot for you.
It helped the turnovers. How many was that the second quarter, the third quarter, where I think the Clippers missed 4 shots, but they had 6 or 7 turnovers in the single quarter. I think it was the second quarter against the Heat, where it was like they should have been up by like 26, but they turned the ball over 7 times in one frame.
Well, and I take it back to that first game against the Hawks, and this was Kawhi's first game back, and they shot 55% from the field and blew them out 131-105 at Intuit Dome. It just looked amazing, and everybody's freaking out, and Kawhi's back, and he looks great, and he was moving really well in his 19 minutes. But sometimes just a great shooting game, masks a lot of problems lying beneath. But you need them, and they happen against you. So odds were the Clippers were due.
The odds have been in their favor recently. To close the season, the odds theoretically should be in their favor to have more hot shooting nights than their opponent based on how the rest of the season has gone. Someone who's not going to be hot shooting, because that's not what they're here to do, Ben Simmons is upgraded to questionable for this game. So that's good.
I mean, he wasn't even with the team, right? Law said that he flew to Atlanta.
Yeah.
So
imagine
I think he's playing.
Yeah, I'm like, if you have a knee injury and you're not with the team and then they're flying you out to the game, I would be pissed if I were Ben Simmons and I wasn't playing. If you're going to make me come to the city and not play.
And it's not like Drew Eubanks was so terrible yesterday or anything. I thought he was actually solid in that game. It was like, oh, God, we need you, Ben.
Well, what's funny, too, is they play the Hornets at home. So they would be flying Ben Simmons to just hang out with the team and then come back on Saturday.
Yeah.
He's
playing.
Yeah, we can kind of assume he's playing. Since the All-Star break, the Hawks they're 4th in pace. The Clippers are 28th. Not a huge surprise there. They're 5th in points per game at 121. Clips are at 111. Top 10 in three-point percentage. However, 25th in defensive rating for the Hawks. They're at 118.4. Clippers are 19th at 116.7. But Adam, haggle, no haggle, I think the Clippers' defensive rating is a lot less indicative of their regular, usual defense than the Hawks' defensive rating is. The Clippers are obviously a better defensive team than 19th in the league. How are we feeling about playing against a team that's putting up a lot of points and getting a lot of possessions? Because that can sometimes be this Clippers team's kryptonite.
Yeah, it's funny. They've had games where they've been able to hang with teams and outplay them and beat them at their own game and play at a fast tempo and a fast pace, like that first game against Atlanta, like that game they beat Memphis twice. They're a fast paced team.
Raptors are crazy fast.
And then they've had other games where they've really struggled.
Yeah.
And I wonder how much is that the Clippers just had their legs that night, They're an older team. And how much is it really an Achilles heel for them the majority of the time? And those games were just outliers where they were able to run a little bit. But I do think, to me, it's a game you want to try to slow down, and you have a guy to do it in Ivica Zubac. You can slow down the game that way. Ricky G on X always talks
Shout
about
out Ricky G.
Coach always talks about putting the brakes on fast teams and what he would do and how they used to do it back in the day. You get it to your center, you slow things down a little bit, you play a more physical, slow plotting game, and it wears on teams. The Clippers have the ability to do that. And I do think Ben showing up, though, tells me that as long as he's playing, and maybe he doesn't play, he's just there for vibes. And it was that important to get him there for that game, even though they're coming back on Sunday anyways, just for the vibes. He's that good of a locker room guy. But I'm assuming he's playing, and he is somebody that can get out, obviously, in transition, and that's where he's at his best. So I think they want to be able to play multiple ways, whether they're going through Ivica Zubac and slowing it down, or when they're going small with Ben at the point center and being able to hang and run with the Atlanta Hawks in that ball game. But yeah, I do like the versatility of this team. I was thinking about it earlier today, just on paper after the trade deadline, and now you see it with Bogey being able to run pick and roll so much. They do have a lot of different ways they can play, in theory, if they're fully healthy, like having Ben back. So I'm interested.
Yeah, we've seen a couple Bogey and Ben pick and rolls that have worked out very well for the Clippers because, someone leaves Derrick Jones Jr. so he can cut, or someone's coming off a shooter. Like the Bogey Ben pick and roll is a fun thing. Slowing the pace down, this is a bit of a tangent. Did you see what happened in that Illinois high school basketball state tournament game where a team, so there's no shot clock in like 2/3 of the US for high school basketball, which is crazy. This team didn't do anything with the ball for like 7 minutes to open the game. Like I was watching footage of it, dude. Like they're just standing there. They're not doing anything like to just slow. It was a nightmare. There was a reporter there who was like, things are getting tense because it was like 4-6 at halftime. Because it was a team they pulled off the upset, but by literally by not doing anything during the game.
Whatever it takes, right?
Oh man, I could not play for a team like that. I would try to lay up ones or something. Yeah, so since the All-Star break, the Hawks starters have not been good. Since the All-Star break, they're +1 in 92 minutes.
The Hawks?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah, so that gives me some help, especially I'm assuming we're talking kind of rotating starting lineup. Chris Dunn is going to make life hell for Trae Young, is my prediction of what the game plan is.
Future Clipper Trae Young,
huh? Oh, no. Well, not if John Morant comes.
I think it's real. I've been talking about it for a while. I think it's a real possibility.
Real. There's been enough rumblings for sure. Their best lineup since the All-Star break has been Karis LeVert, Georges Niang, Trae Young, Okongwu, and Daniels. They're +14 in 50 minutes. Again, small sample size, but that's just how the teams have been playing since the All-Star break. But I think Chris Dunn is maybe like the most important guy here defensively for the Clippers. If he doesn't get the early foul calls, if he does his usual thing, Trae Young will be frustrated. And then after that, good luck, Atlanta.
Yeah, they've won 5 of 6 Atlanta and 4 in a row, but 2 of them are against the Hornets and 76ers, but they beat the Pacers in back-to-back games. That's not easy. also a team that plays. That's the team that kind of plays at a pace. The Clippers, and they're like eighth or something, but the Clippers could not hang with them and their pace. Clearly,
Yeah,
that's the other
yeah,
side of it. They've had some good games against those fast-paced teams. They've had some bad games, and those were against the Pacers, even though they were up by 22 in the first one. But
yeah.
the Hawks have been playing. They're coming in hot. I mean, they're 32 and 34, but 4-game winning streak. They've won 5 of 6.
A lot of
Clippers have won
points.
4 or 5. And the game they lost was to Milwaukee. It was a close game, Atlanta. So that's interesting to me. Their defense has been that bad, and they've been winning as of late. What is
They're
their
putting up,
offensive ratings the last 12 games here? Where are they at here? I'm looking it up.
I don't know, points
I
per
got them
game.
7th.
Points per game, they're at 5th, and they're at 121 points per game. That I didn't include the rating for some reason. I was busy at work.
I got them 7th in offensive rating the last 12 games, which I think is how many they played since the All-Star break.
That checks out.
So they've been really humming on that end.
But again, not the other side of the ball.
Yeah.
Very much not. This is a team that is similar to the Raptors, where it's like we're going to run and try and score as many points and do our best-ish on defense. What are you worried about from the Clippers side? Playing a team that scores a bunch of points, obviously, if there's a cold shooting night for the Clippers and the Hawks can get out and run a little bit at home, especially, things become a little jammed up. But I don't know. I'm not like incredibly confident about this game, but it's a game that gives the Clippers the opportunity to kind of work on some other stuff or you do the usual stuff, just drill down more against a softer defense.
Yeah, what's interesting in that first game where they blew out Atlanta,
Yeah.
no one scored more than 20 points. Now that 20 was from Norman Powell, but they had 8 guys in double figures of that game. Now, Kevin Porter Jr. is no longer with the Clippers. He had 15 off the bench there. Terrence Mann is on the Atlanta Hawks, and that was a really good game from him where he went 5 of 5 and had 12 points. But they kind of did it.
Things change, baby.
They were really sharing the rock. They had 36 assists. That might have been a season high in that win over Atlanta. So
that's got to be close.
Yeah. They were really good sharing the rock, passing the basketball out there. And as you've talked about with Atlanta's defense not being very good, please watch the tape from that game, Clippers, and share the basketball and make life easy on one another and share the sugars, no Eagle would say.
Yeah. I hope they're watching the tape. I assume they are. All right. So then they got the Hawks, and then they have to play the Hornets, who I'm going to run down some stats I was looking up about the Hornets since the All-Star break. They are 3-10. They are dead last in field goal percentage, dead last in true shooting percentage, dead last in net rating, dead last in offensive rating, and second to dead last in assist to turnover ratio. Now, the question is, do these stats encourage you or discourage you for this matchup? We shot them out of the gym last time. How are we feeling about this Hornets matchup?
Well, we get to see future Clipper LaMelo Ball. So.
And almost future Clipper Miles Bridges.
Oh boy. Yeah, that first game, the Clippers 11 of 28 from the outside, almost shot 55% from the field. Charlotte's offense is pretty much broken, but they didn't have LaMelo Ball in that first meeting against the Clippers.
Ooh, good call. But this is another remedy that Chris Dunn solves, or not solves, but
yeah, they'll need more of that. These are both games where it feels more about the Clippers.
Ooh, I like the way you said that, 100%.
If they can play to their potential, I don't care if these teams are at their A game. The Clippers should beat them, if they do that. But there's so many variables right now with this team. Another one being Ben Simmons coming back. It's hard to know what you're going to get night to night, which goes back to what you said about the back-to-back and, one game they play like that. But it's also been a lot of hot shooting going against them. and cold shooting from them until last night. They have a breakout against Miami, but you have to win that game against Charlotte.
Oh, yeah.
You want to talk about a new low point because
dude, the post game, if the Clippers lose on Sunday, the post game is going to be colorful.
the further you get into the season, the more every game is magnified. So even a game against Charlotte, which if it was back in December, I'd say, oh, who cares? It's Charlotte. Nobody's going to remember this. Everybody is going to remember this because there will be, 15 games left before they tip off against them. Huge importance to the Clippers to come out and play the right way on Sunday. And that's simple. Like, what does that mean? Clippers basketball is showing up and playing great defense. Like, this isn't that hard to look for an identity this year with this team. And since the All-Star break, well, they are 4th overall in the season. They were 2nd just like a week ago.
Yeah.
Well, what's going on there? Well, last 12 games post All-Star break, they're 19th defensively. Not good enough.
Getting those legs back. They got to get the legs back turns. Like when you get an old car, you got to maybe give a little gas sometimes when you start it up. That's where the Clippers are at. Okay. Player of the weekend. Who are you going with? Will is not here. Let's say, who do we
Kevin
think?
Porter Jr.
Yeah. Who do we think Will would choose? I think he would maybe go Bogey because he's gone with Bogey recently. But if you were going to go with Bogey, you can obviously take it.
He took Bogey. Then you took Bogey. Then I just took Bogey. Is it back to Will?
No, well, maybe you should take Bogey again because he just had his best game.
He was my player to watch. Also, on top of the Clips and Dips call yesterday, I was like, I'm nailing this one. I know it. Now, I also picked Bogey when he went 1 for 12 from 3 at Detroit.
Well, you know what that shows? Mental fortitude on Bogey's part. He won the mental game.
And mine by picking him again.
Yeah, no shit. All right, who are you going with for Hawks and Hornets? Not Kawhi Leonard, Norm Powell, or Ivica Zubac.
Well,
or James Harden.
Because you brought him up so many times, you've talked me into it. I got to go Chris Dunn because he's going to have to handle 2 ball-dominant guys in Trey and LaMelo. LaMelo has been healthy as of late, right?
I think so. I'm gonna be honest. I don't get a lot of Hornets news in my feed.
Because he's had some real injury issues.
Sounds like a future Clipper.
He's fighting over that with Trae Young, though. Okay, they're healthy. They're good.
And Ja Morant.
We got to type.
Yeah, they certainly seem to.
Hard, heavy, baby. Let's go.
All right, so you're going Chris Dunn. Damn. My heart wants to say Ben Simmons, but I just they're gonna ease him back. I don't think.
Do
I think
it.
he'll be
Do it.
What
do your balls say?
I'm going Derek Jones Jr. We're playing 2 teams that are pretty quick. They play effectively fast. And not saying that we need to try and keep up with them, but in the moments that the Clippers can take advantage of transition opportunities, which is really important against a younger, faster team, Derek Jones Jr. should be that guy. I'm going Derek Jones Jr.
All right. That's a good call.
I feel pretty good about it.
DJ has been really good as of late. He's been good all season. What am I talking about? It's just.
But no, I know what you mean. Recently, it's popped a little bit.
Yeah, some really impactful games, like him playing late in the game against Sacramento. He was big. Yeah, he hit a big 3.
And he's been. I want to double check before I say this. He's been efficient. He's been since he came back. Knicks game 3 for 5. Kings 7 of 9. Pels 4 for 7. The other night against the Heat 3 for 3. Like he's an incredibly efficient scorer right now off the bench who can also guard 1 through 4.
A lot of lobs in there.
Hey, you got to finish them.
We need them. We need them all. He had nasty ass dunk yesterday back in Miami.
Yeah,
he got up. He was showing off a little bit.
And so Will's gonna go with Bogey then, I guess, by default.
Yeah, one of us always has to have Bogey. That's the new rule. Apparently.
Yeah, man, we have a lot of qualifiers on this player of the game pick. All All right, that about wraps it up for this edition of Clips and Dip. We're going to do a post-game hang tomorrow night. Maybe we'll be on Clippers Talk. Who knows? Maybe we'll be doing a little Clips and Dip one. Full episode on Monday. And if you'd like to find us, you can find us anywhere you listen to podcasts. We love reviews. If you give us a review on iTunes, we'll read it on the air. That's always a good time, good or bad, depending on whatever colorful language you use. And if you'd like to watch us, you can find us at youtube.com/@ClippersPodcast. Adam, we've been doing it for the most part tonight, but one final positive thing to send these Clippers fans into their weekend with.
So the Clippers just survived a game. We mentioned their hot shooting against Miami. Miami also shot it well. They were at 38% from three. They hit 14 three-pointers in the game. But the Clippers, one thing they haven't been doing as well as of late, aside from knocking down threes themselves, is the rebounding numbers have been down. And that's a part of defense. And yesterday, they out-rebounded Miami 45-29.
They were on the boards.
Some of that is because, they didn't leave a lot of defensive rebounds out there for Miami because they shot the ball so well. But some of that was effort. And my God, holding Bam Adebayo to 2 of 7 with 6 points and 7 boards was insane, especially if you look at how good he had just been playing. Like, I was wondering, is he sick afterwards? Like, what? I know Abisa Zubas is good, but Bam, come on, man, meet the challenge a little bit here. Like, they dominated him. Even Eubanks was good too. So that was
even Eubanks.
Well, I mean, not exactly a top 5 rim protector like Zoo.
Sure.
But, yeah.
He's kissing the top 5, though, right? He's got to be close.
Bam he's right there. He's right there. Obama was too.
Yeah, you give him more minutes. Yeah, well, and then maybe we can talk.
Bam just had 23 and 14. Okay, 22 and 6, but 29 and 13, 34 and 12, 19 and 15, 30 and 7. Like, he was kicking everybody's ass, and then he saw Big Zoo was like, I'm out.
Can't do it.
So the rebounding battle, hopefully that's something that also continues for the Clippers with them crashing the boards, because for a while, I don't know if this is still true, but they were top 2 in defensive rebounding percentage on the season.
Yeah.
And that was really good to see from them. They're still 3rd, but it's really dropped off as of late, and you got to close out possessions and be better there. And we'll see if that turns around now.
There we go. We got to crash the boards. Thank you all for hanging out. We'll be back before you know it. And as always, let's go Clips.